So I just got done watching the new Batman show, Batman the Caped Crusader. And there's a lot of people who hate this show and a lot of people who love this show. And I think there's a good amount of people as well that are like me that think that this show is very, very meh. You know? There's some episodes that I think were good. Like okay. And then there's some episodes that I just think were kind of boring. And a lot of the stuff that was changed. I think there was a lot of stuff that was changed that I was just like, was that a necessary change? So the big one is everybody's getting upset about Penguin being a chick. I didn't care about that, to be quite honest with you. It's just when you start noticing it more and more in media, it becomes more annoying because it's like, why are we doing this? Is it just for the sake of gender bending them? This is the complaint that a lot of people have for the Suicide Squad Season Pass 2 with Mrs. Freeze. I think it's also because that game is a big pile of garbage. But yeah, it's just like, instead of making it Nora Freeze, who in several comics did take up the mantle of becoming Mrs. Freeze, instead it's just a gender-swapped Victor Freeze and Victoria Freeze or whatever, and she's a lesbian. It's so obviously done for diversity. That's what really, I think, annoys a lot of people. People be like, oh, what? Because, you got a problem with it? No, I don't care that it's a lesbian thing. It's just annoyingly lazy. It's so lazy. And that's, I think, why a lot of people get annoyed with these gender swaps, because it's the excuse. You are basically getting your diversity points, your diversity quota, without actually having to write a different character. They also write her to sort of be like this kind of seductress in a way. Like there's guys going whistling at her like she's hot or something. She's like a big fucking football player of a woman. Like she looks gross, So it doesn't make sense to me why she'd have this seductress personality. And I'm assuming because male Penguin, he always has hot chicks on him and stuff like that. And I guess, but I always assumed that they were prostitutes in a sense, that he just pays them. Maybe that's the same case with men, with the men that are throwing themselves at her, but it doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that. It felt like, oh, look, she's this sexy mama. And she's not. I don't know. I mean, then there was characters like Harley, who, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, what? And I'm a fat guy, all right? I'm a big fat guy. Not super big fat, but I'm fat, all right? I can't stand this trend of turning characters that are predominantly skinny or in shape in most comics to chubby looking people. It just feels weird, and it's like Harley Quinn looks nothing like she should. She doesn't have blonde hair. She doesn't have an accent. She looks like somebody's aunt. I don't know. I didn't like it very much. I thought it was just an unnecessary change. She barely resembles the character, and I know this is actually the original idea for her character, and it's very whatever. I don't like that she is a horrible person. She's a very sadistic, cruel person, but then they try to give her some sort of redeeming thing at the end where we're supposed to feel bad that she died. No, she's an awful, awful person. I'm glad that she got what she had coming to her. She's a terrible person. She brainwashed people and tortured them, and yeah, they weren't, they were corrupt, but I mean, she's a fucking evil person. And it feels weird because for most of the episode, it kind of plays it up like that. And then just randomly, we're supposed to she went back to go save Barbara. Yeah, well, okay, I guess. I mean, that's not really enough to make up for the fact that she's an awful fucking person. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird thing that, like, and they did it a few times. They did it with Two-Face. They made him like a shitty person. They made Harvey like a completely shitty person for the first few episodes. He just seemed like a slime ball. And then, like, they, near the end, tried to get this, like, humanity to him. And in doing so, it just felt tonally confused. It felt confused of what his character was supposed to be. And if they wanted to work on, like, making him sympathetic, but also, like, it's understandable why he would break into that dark side, I think they could have done it without basically making him sort of this corrupted guy throughout a lot of the show. I don't like what they did to Bullock. That really pissed me off. I think him being just a full-on corrupted cop, it was really dumb. Especially when you have a character like Flask, who is, like, known to be the crooked cop. And I think it would have been interesting if Bullock was kind of crooked, but he was also, like, he kind of turned over a new leaf. Because it's so strange, too, because I think he's literally had that same character arc in other media. Like, I think that was his character arc in Gotham, was that he was kind of, he was kind of half corrupt, but not fully corrupt. And then when Gordon started working with the Force, he kind of sort of changed sides and sort of, like, started to become more and more of a better cop. And, like, yeah, he's an angry guy. Yeah, he doesn't like Batman. Yeah, he's kind of an asshole. He talks like, yeah, whatever, the bat's a fucking vigilante. He's a piece of shit, kind of. But he's also like that piece of shit with a heart of gold. He's kind of well-intentioned. And it just felt really lazy to, what I see him as? I see him as, like, the Paulie, because Paulie from Rocky, he reminds me a lot of Bullock, where, he is a pretty big asshole, but he also, like, there is humanity in him that you can't help but like. And I think that it was just lazy to make him just a generic, bad cop. Barbara Gordon, I'm not a fan of her. I think she is, like, they do this with so many fucking female characters now. Stop writing female characters to be assholes. Like, stop writing them to be smug and just, like, condescending and have to, like, put everybody down or, like, be the person who's always in, like, a bad mood. Like, it's her character. You can take Barbara Gordon's character and apply it to, like, any female strong main character in any animation, and it's just the same shit. It's the same, oh yeah, she's fed up with the system, and she's kind of mean to everybody, sort of, in that sort of, like, Velma way, where, like, she's, like, dismissive of everybody. Same with Renee Montoya. But at the end of the day, they're also kind of good, because they do care and they want to help. And it's like, yeah, but you're also just, like, not an enjoyable character to watch. Like, I don't like watching Barbara or watching Renee, because I just think that they wrote them to be, like, way too, I don't know, like, stuck up. And I also think it's annoying that the characters that I really wanted to see are kind of sidelined. I think sidelining Jim Gordon, it felt weird. Like, Jim Gordon and Batman's relationship should have been the relationship that Batman has with Barbara Gordon in this show, which is very, like, they're working kind of together. And it felt like, for no reason at all, we're subverting that expectation and making it Barbara. And there's a lot of that where they just subvert expectations for literally no reason at all. Like, instead of making Harley Quinn a blonde woman from the fucking, like, has that New York accent, and, she's the Joker's sidekick, we make her a completely different character for literally no reason. Or instead of making it a Firefly, we make him Firebug, because there is a character named Firebug that gets mixed up with Firefly all the time in the comics. It's just like, why even do that? Just make it Firefly. Like, literally, there's no reason to do that. A lot of it just felt like, well, we're subverting expectations for just literally for that purpose. And this really comes to the Batman relationship with Alfred. I did not like it. I don't think it makes sense. Batman grew up his entire life with Alfred as his caretaker, and only until the 10th episode does he call him Alfred and not Pennyworth. To me, I just don't buy it, especially when you have a character like Bruce who is willing to dress up like a bat and beat up criminals and save people. And, you know, now he's just randomly kind of like this like, he's kind of an asshole in this show, to be honest. They write him to be like that too, and it's weird. Like, there's a line that he has with Harvey when they're in the when he goes to visit him in the Arkham Asylum. Because just if you didn't know, Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. That might be a shocker to you. But Bruce goes and visits him and is like, we can get you out of here. You can live a life. And it's like, yeah, but after everything I did, I can't, you know, no normal person would be able to get away with that. And he's like, well, you're not a normal person. And he's like, yeah, well, that wouldn't be just. And then Bruce goes, he like kind of out of character and kind of to himself, like, don't start growing a conscience now dent or something. Like, yeah, like, what? That does not fit Batman or Bruce Wayne's character at all. Like, I just don't buy that coming from him. And it felt like they just, I don't know if it's a new take on the character or if it's a misinterpretation of the character. Personally, I just wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan, honestly, of his Batman voice. I think they could have gotten a lot of different people that would have been a lot better. Roger Craig Smith would have been better. Troy Baker would have been better. Obviously, you can't get Kevin Conroy now because, you know, unfortunately, he has passed on, and he is the greatest voice of Batman. He's literally the best Batman, dude. Like, there's no one who's gonna beat Kevin Conroy's Batman. And it's like, God, hearing Kevin Conroy's voice and then hearing the guy who does Batman's voice in this, because he honestly has a good Bruce Wayne voice, and I think his Bruce Wayne voice sounds better as a Batman voice, because his Batman voice is very, you know, very like this. I'm investigating something, and it's, you know, very whispery. And his Bruce Wayne voice is more, you know, clear and has that sort of buttery smoothness. You know, because Kevin Conroy's Batman started off a lot like that too. But as he grew into the role over the years, I think his voice just became perfected, and it sounded so amazing to listen to. Like, I could literally just listen to Kevin Conroy's Batman saying that he needs to do something for like 10 hours. It's always like, I need to get to the steel mill. This area is closed off. I need to find another way in. You know, just like, he has that analytical, perfect voice. It's just so perfect. And, you know, I'm not saying that someone needs to be the new Kevin Conroy, but there's so many better Batman actors to get. Like, Troy Baker is so much better in the Telltale series. Roger Craig Smith is so much better in Arkham Origins and other shows that he's done as Batman. Just like, I would so much rather hear like a voice that's commanding and has that smoothness and, you know, and like that ASMR feel. Like, it's kind of relaxing to listen to, but it's also authoritative, you know, and it has that crispness rather. And instead we get the, I'm shadowy and I'm whispery and I'm gonna talk like this and you can hardly make out what I'm saying. Voice acting as a whole was very you know? Some of it was good, some of it was whatever. Animation style. Okay, so the art style itself is alright. Not too big of a fan of this weird glossy effect that every DC animation has. Everything looks like, I don't know, it looks like they soaked everything with Vaseline or something. Everything has this weird shininess to it that, you know, maybe it's just how digital animation always looks. But also that, I don't know, it just always takes me out of it because it's weird looking at shows like Batman the Animated Series or even the Justice League cartoon and just see how, like, just how much better those look and how much more colorful and lively they look compared to a lot of animations now that DC puts out. And the animation itself, not the art style, but the animation itself is not good. Again, DC has this problem with vehicles that I've noticed in every fucking movie that they've released in like any animation that they've released literally in the past, I want to say 10, 15 years has this just awful animation for their vehicles. Like everything looks like it's glued to the ground, or it looks like it's it doesn't look like an actual car that's moving. It doesn't move how a car is supposed to move. It's very stiff. Everything is very stiff. The animation for the fight scenes is stiff. There isn't really ever a good fight scene, and with Batman, I feel like, especially when you're in 2024, you should be able to showcase Batman's fighting style more than him just throwing punches. And that's something that even the Batman, the animated series, had a problem with, where Batman just kind of fought very stiffly, kind of like a boxer. But I mean, when you're in 2024, and it feels like, animation has taken so many like leaps ahead of what it was in the 90s. And you still have this just stiff-looking Batman who fights like an average crook, And I think Batman also himself was way too many times in this show like presented as kind of weak. I didn't like him being like straight up beaten by a little girl. Like I thought that was stupid. And there was also some episodes that just felt like way too out of character for the show. Like the ghost episode just felt so random and didn't fit the tone of everything else in the show. Same with the vampire episode, because the rest of the show is super grounded. And then there's just these like 2 episodes that deal with this supernatural shit that just does not feel connected in the slightest. All the while, too, while there's like vampires and ghosts running around, we're still trying to set up this like Harvey Dent, Rupert Thorne storyline for the finale, and it's just so weird. It's so weirdly like tonally confused. I also wanted to bring up, why did they make Alfred a fat guy? Like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't because I think I was bringing it up earlier. I don't know. I sometimes get distracted and just ramble, but yeah, they made Harley fat, they made Montoya fat, and they made Alfred fat. And I don't know why they do this. Like, stop doing this to characters. It does not make me feel better about being fat, I'll tell you that. I'm a fat guy, and I still feel bad about it. And now it just makes me feel bad for these characters, because they were forced to be written or drawn in a way that they don't look like. Like, if I showed you a picture of of Harley Quinn in this show, I know she's not technically Harley Quinn, even though that's her name. It's Harleen Quinzel. If I showed you a picture of what she looks like, you would not think it's her. You would think that it was like someone's mother, or someone, like it does not look anything like Harley Quinn. And it kind of annoys me now that you could literally just take anybody. You could just take this big fat dumpy person off the fucking subway and then be like, yeah, that's Dick Grayson now. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, no, stop. All right, draw the characters the way they're supposed to be drawn. Stop gender swapping characters because you're too lazy to actually write a diverse character, and instead you gotta swap the fucking race with somebody because, we want to have our cake and eat it too, Or you can get a character, and this is more of just a rant on everything, or you can get a character that is in the comics, written as a black person, or written as a Hispanic person, or written as a woman. And you can make a show about that. But you can't do that because then you would lose a lot of people who don't really know that character. It's so much easier if we just say, instead of it being a new villain who's a woman or a new different person, literally just a different person taking the same mantle, like, we have to make them... We just have to make them the same character, but swapped. It's just annoying to me. It's so incredibly lazy. That's what really bothers me about it. It's the laziness, and this show feels very lazy. And I liked it, but it was also a lot of stuff that I didn't like about it, and my major complaint that I had, I thought was just, wow, that's really lazy. Like, I just think that this, it's kind of lazy. Like, especially when they show clips of, anytime there's a newspaper in this show, like, you can clearly tell that the words written under the headlines are complete gibberish. Just gibberish. Why even show it? It's just laziness. They couldn't write a fucking fake few articles. And if you really didn't want to write anything, then just write lines. Just make it like your, the standard cartoon fucking newspaper where you can't really make out what it says, and just like put like, just lines or squiggly lines or something. They do it several times with other things. So it's always so jarring to see them and just like read under, and it's just complete gibberish. And someone maybe will say, well, actually, that's a creative choice. I didn't like it. A lot of people also complain that this is a set in the 40s, but there's like so much diversity in it that doesn't fit the time period. I always just got the sense that it was taking place in this ambiguous timeline, because they never really state what year it is. And I think there's never any like case where you see the date of something. It's just taking place in an ambiguous timeline that's kind of set in the 40s, but it could be set really anywhere. And so I didn't really have a problem with it, but I can see what people mean, because honestly, it's trying to recapture that Batman the Animated Series like feeling, and it's nowhere close. It doesn't have the atmosphere. It doesn't have the, because although the Batman Animated Series was very dark, there was a lot of shadows. There was also a lot of color and a lot of creativity in the way that things were drawn and looked. And it feels like this is just very stock, generic shit. Like, the city itself doesn't feel very interesting to look at. Like, everything, I think this show just feels extremely bland. And I think that's the main complaint I'm seeing a lot, is that it's painfully average and just bland. And yeah, I have to agree. It's nothing terrible, but it's nothing to write home about. And, I'm not really that excited for season 2. I know they set up the Joker at the end. Of course, the Joker has a terrible voice. Like, the voice for the Joker that you hear, it's like this deep voice for the Joker. And it's so weird. I never liked the Joker with a deep voice. Oh, Harley. Like, it sounds strange. The Joker should have that clownish, like, not high-pitched, but you know what I mean? Like, energetic voice. Like, like, you should be, you sound like a clown. Sound like a comedian, not sound like, I'm the Joker. Like, it's so strange. Such a strange choice. And that's how, so many times in the show was I watching it where I was just like, it's such a strange choice. It's like so strange to do that. They introduced Deadshot. Like, I think they literally say Deadshot's like full name, like Flint something. Or like whatever fucking Deadshot's name is. But then it turns out that it's a different person who's the boss. And I don't think they even say his name too, but he wears a mask. And you never see his face, but he wears a mask. And like, he's clearly like different from all the people that are hired to kill Gordon. Who it actually turns out they're not hired to kill Jim Gordon, they're hired to kill Barbara Gordon. For some reason. Oh, because the guy was mad at her. Because he went to prison because he was a criminal. And he blamed her for some reason. Yeah, it just like, I was wondering the whole time, like, who's that guy with the bullseye on his head? It's not Bullseye, because that's a Daredevil villain. And they already said Deadshot's name, and that was a failed shooter. Like, that guy failed at his job. So is this supposed to be Deadshot, or is he a new character? And what's his name? We don't know. We don't even know what he looks like, because when they arrest him, they keep his mask on, which is confusing as fuck. And there's also a lot of times where, like, stuff just doesn't make sense. Like, they arrest Selena Kyle, and they straight up arrest her with like, the gems that she stole in her, like, on the side of her. Like, you can literally see her with the bag that she stole the gems from. Now, maybe I have to rewatch it. Maybe Batman took them. But then when they, like, take her to court, Harvey Dent, like, goes, like, oh, you know, we'll let her slide since there was no evidence against her. And I'm like, didn't they literally catch her with the shit? You know, like, they literally caught her with diamonds. And also, there's no evidence. Like, you catch somebody at the crime in a fucking outfit with a mask on, and they have repeat offenses of robbery. Like, what do you mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. The whole, like, we didn't have any evidence. Like, I think that's pretty clear-cut evidence right there. I don't know. That felt strange to me. Like, Selena Kyle was weird in this. They, like, gave her a horrible costume. Like, it just looked really ugly. And it's, again, for no reason at all, changing something that didn't need to be changed, or making something more extravagant than it needed to be. Like, it's just like, why can't you give her a regular spandex outfit, or like her regular Catwoman-like outfit? Instead, you have to give her a cape and a skirt. Like, it just didn't feel, it just felt wrong looking at. And then they gave her a Catmobile. Very dumb. It's so weird how the show, it presents itself kind of as a serious crime noir. But then, like, shit like that happens that I'm like, oh, there's a Catmobile. Now, again, the Batman the Animated Series would do it a lot too, but I feel like it just, I don't know, it never felt like it got so ridiculous out of nowhere. Like, out of nowhere, in a fairly grounded episode, we get that shit, you know? It's just, like, out of nowhere, like, a fairly grounded story kind of about Harvey Dent trying to become mayor, and we're mixing that in with, like, vampires and ghosts. Just very confused. So, overall, I'd say that the show wasn't bad, wasn't great, it wasn't even that good. It was a solid, I want to say, like, 5.5 or a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it made me want to go rewatch the Batman the Animated Series, because I say the Batman the Animated Series. That feels weird. It made me want to go see that show again, because I haven't watched it in a long time, and I really like it. I think it's awesome. I think it's probably the best, like, TV format of Batman we'll ever have. And yeah. Oh, by the way, anytime you see a white cop in this show, or even, like, a white guy, like, 90% of the time, they are a bad guy, or, like, secretly. Like, I was laughing when it turned out that Barbara Gordon was the one that they were trying to kill, and then, like, Detective Corgan, is that his name? Corgan or Gorgon? He, like, turns the gun on him, and I was like, oh yeah, I thought it was weird that there was a good white guy cop. I know, I'm gonna sound like one of those, like, anti-woke channels, but, I mean, it's, when you can see something that's so blatant, like, you can't just not call it out. Anyway, yeah, 5.5 out of 10 for this show. You might really like it if you watch it, you might love it, or you might hate it. I just hope this doesn't get this, like, I feel like it's gonna get that weird perception of, like, it's amazing, or it's pretty terrible, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. And I feel like there should be so much more reviews that are in the middle, because I think a lot of the times when people say it's terrible, and it's awful, and it's woke garbage, you know, they're just writing it off simply because of certain things that they heard about, like, oh, Penguin's a woman, Alfred's fat, show's ruined. Like, no, those are complaints I have, but it didn't ruin the show for me. And then there's people who are saying it's, like, fantastic and amazing and the best Batman show we've had in years and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'd still watch Gotham over this, you know? I mean, I would watch Gotham over a lot of shows, because Gotham is just so awesome. But yeah, like, I just hope it doesn't get overhyped and over hated in a sense. Like, I want it to get a fair shake. Because everything is just either like it's the worst thing ever, or it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and there's no in between, and it bothers me. Yeah. So thanks for listening. I bid you. Oh wait, isn't it? Didn't she even say the fat penguin lady? Didn't she say skibbity, skibbity toilet? No, 23 skidoo. I bid you adieu. Well, that's what I'm doing.